kind of kidney problem and died in the late 30s at age 13. This was Iowa, still caught in a lot of the depression, middle of nowhere. And the write-up of Bella June's funeral in the newspaper, which you can find online, says this: a sum of $33.15 was collected from the congregation in memory by friends for foreign missions. Velma June prayed for relatives, friends, classmates, confirmation classmates, and especially for foreign missionaries. Little did she know that her sisters, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would be the foreign missionaries that she was praying for. So as we introduce my son Devlin and his wife Courtney McGuire, I want to also praise God for his faithfulness in hearing and answering prayers and blessing the love for 1,000 generations.
Hello, everybody. My name is Courtney. This is my husband, Devlin. If you guys have already been or will be coming to service today, he'll be preaching. So he's saving most of his voice, and I'll be doing more of the talking during this session. But we want to give you guys a little glimpse of what we're doing, what our ministry is, how our life has looked over the past 2 years, and what we will be doing moving forward. So I'm not sure who's controlling the slides, but whoever you are, you can pass along. Or maybe not. We'll see.
I will
control the slides. All right. If there's a clicker, I'm happy to do it. You guys are awesome. Thank you. So I'll get us started, and then we'll catch up. But we are missionaries serving in Medellin, Colombia. We're serving with the sending organization called Mesa Global, which is a large missions organization. We arrived to Colombia back in the fall of 2023, so we're going on our second year now together. And as a family, we created a mission statement for ourselves, which is together we share the transformative love of Jesus alongside our Colombian brothers and sisters in order to increase equity and justice where we live and serve. And you'll get to see how that looks for us individually and as a couple as well. So an introduction to myself. My name's Courtney, like I said. I am a doctor of physical therapy. I, from a very young age, felt a calling to work with children with disabilities. And then throughout my education, it started to become really clear that I felt like the Lord was calling me to serve children with disabilities abroad where there was less access to healthcare. Right now, I'm on an extended maternity leave because we have little 9-month-old twins. That was an unexpected blessing when we arrived in Colombia, as you can see there. But once the twins end up in preschool, I will start my work in Colombia, working with children with disabilities who are also experiencing poverty. And I'm really passionate about working with their parents and caregivers, giving them the support that they need to be empowered to raise their children with disabilities, which is not a support that they receive often.
Yeah, so I have a,
Oh, you have your
I have a
mic.
mic.
Oh.
We can go next slide. Is there a clicker or is there? Okay. Dope. Great. Okay.
That was me.
That's Courtney. Great.
There we go.
So I am Devlin McGuire. My sort of credentials are I have a PhD in New Testament from Princeton Theological Seminary, and I'm really passionate about global theological education. I serve as a professor of New Testament at the Biblical Seminary of Colombia in Medellin, where I teach in both our undergraduate and master's program to help train local Colombian pastors. The majority of my students are currently pastoring, although it certainly is a mix of training current pastors and of training the next generation of pastors. I became really passionate about global theological education during my undergrad when I was at Wheaton College. I had a conversation with a professor who had spent a long time teaching at a seminary in Costa Rica about my passion for teaching the Bible, and he said to me, the church needs Bible teachers, but she doesn't need them here. And he was referring to the fact that globally, the church is growing at an incredible rate, but pastors and leaders are not being sufficiently developed. Globally, 85% of churches are led by pastors who have no formal theological education or training. So I work to help teach my students about biblical interpretation and the New Testament.
Yeah, and the next slide is a little introduction to our babies that if you come to the 11 o'clock service, will be baptized. This is Sebastian and Adelena, who are now 9 months old. They are beautiful little Colombian-born twins that stop every grandma on the street, and we have met every grandmother in our neighborhood in Colombia who love to hold our little ones. Their hobbies are stealing toys from each other and eating, especially mangoes. It's their current favorite. All right, so a quick introduction to the next slide is our missions organization, which is called Mesa Global. You might recognize the name United World Mission. So United World Mission was the old name for our missions organization. It was founded in the 40s. It's a generic missions organization that has over 400 missionaries serving in over 50 countries. Their mission statement is to equip servant leaders with the church for God's mission. And so there's this huge emphasis on equipping leaders wherever you're serving. So not just serving individuals, but equipping leaders who will then serve their own people. So we see that in Devlin's ministry, who's training pastors who will then lead the Colombian church. For myself, it's equipping the parents of children with disabilities who will then lead that community as well. They merged with a few different organizations over time, Latin American Mission, as well as Overseas Council, which has a specialization in theological education. So Mesa Global is really well equipped both in the Latin American region as well as in theological education. So we're so grateful to have their support alongside of us. So where we are is in Medellin, Colombia. If you can see the little red dot on the map, that is where we live. It's in the northwest corner of Colombia, right in the middle of the Andes mountain range. It's a beautiful city surrounded by the mountains. A very dense city of 4 million people. So it is super, super dense. It's the second largest city in Colombia, second to the capital of Bogota. Many people who have heard of Medellin have heard, due to the tragic history that the people of Medellin have encountered back in the 70s through early 2000s. It was a city really riddled with violence from the drug wars and drug trafficking that has affected so many of our community members. There's over 8 million internally displaced people in Colombia, so people who lost their homes to the violence that they were experiencing, many of whom fled to the cities as a safe haven, and now are restarting their lives. So that's a large group of the population that we work with in Medellin.
Next slide. So I serve at the Biblical Seminary of Colombia. You can see some photos of it here. This seminary was founded in the 40s by a collection of missions agencies, but in 2000, all its ducks in a row, became the first fully government-accredited non-Catholic religious school in the country. Colombia is, no surprise, a very Catholic country. It's about 60% Catholic, 20% Protestant. So it's the first fully accredited non-Catholic religious school, and it still is the only fully accredited interdenominational seminary or religious school in Colombia, which creates a really vibrant community where we have lots of really lively discussions and exchanges of ideas that's really fun. They offer a bachelor's degree in theology. That's most of what they do in the Colombian system. A sort of a liberal arts undergrad doesn't really exist. Most undergraduates are more professional degrees. So a bachelor's in theology. They also have a master's in biblical interpretation that's a couple years old that we're still getting off the ground and running, and we're currently going through the accreditation process of another master's degree in Christian ministry. The seminary has about 200 students between our presential, I'm mixing Spanish and English with that one. between our in-person and virtual programs. About 20 faculty, but we also have a large number of continuing education events. Every year, over 2,000 local pastors will come to various continuing education events at the seminary. It's very ministry focused. 90+% of the graduates either are in or will go into full-time ministry, so we really have our focus on training and equipping the leaders of the church.
Yeah, so we just wanted to give you a little overview of what we've been doing since we moved to Colombia. The first 14 months, we were in full-time language school. So we both knew that we felt this calling of myself being a physical therapist, him being a theological educator, but we didn't know where God was calling us. And so we obviously couldn't start studying the language, not knowing what country we would be sending to. So when we arrived in Colombia, we arrived with very little, very broken Spanish. We started a language program that was 4 hours a day for 14 months. And then, of course, we were living in a neighborhood with no English, and so we learned how to survive. We learned how to go to the local markets, how to catch the buses that don't have any bus stops. You just have to wave down the bus driver and ask where he's going and hope it's where you're going, or hope you can understand his directions to find the bus that is going where you are. So our first year was really just adjusting, learning how to survive, learning the language, learning the culture, observing everything that was going on, and being essentially professional learners. And then, of course, a major update is that our team doubled last year. Our twins were born in September 11th. Sebastian and Adelina were born in Colombia. Sebastian is 3 minutes older than his baby sister. And they were born 3 weeks premature, so we had a little bit of a NICU stay and some medical complications after. We were in speech therapy for many months, working on their feeding, working on them gaining weight. So the fall of last year was kind of an unexpected diversion into caring for our somewhat medically complicated infants who, thanks be to God, are now thriving.
So since we finished language school, after that I began teaching at the seminary in late January, early February. I'm teaching fully in Spanish, and my students are very patient with me. Even though I've learned a lot of Spanish, there still is, there's so many little things, right? So I began teaching in January. Last semester I taught 2 courses. A typical full-time professor teaches 4, but the seminary is letting me sort of start slow because everything is just slower for me as I'm still learning all the Spanish and learning the literature in Spanish, et cetera, et cetera. So last semester I taught 2 courses. I taught an undergraduate class on hermeneutics, which is about how to interpret the Bible, and a master's class on textual criticism, which is a class where you compare different manuscripts of the Bible to make sure that the text is as close to the original text as we possibly can get it. That textual criticism class really has been the sort of ministry highlight for me so far. It was a small group of 7 students, but we had such incredible, lively discussions about tiny, invariants in the biblical text. And it was incredible to see these students' passion for making sure they get the text right, for making sure they understand it as well as they possibly can. In addition to teaching classes, I'm also involved in a little bit of mentoring of students. I've been supervising a group of students who are doing an undergrad thesis. I've been second reader for a number of master's theses. I gave a research symposium on the topic of my doctoral dissertation, which is apocalyptic eschatology in Jewish and Christian literature of the late Second Temple period. If you want to chat about it, let me know. Yeah, it's been preached in chapel, and it's been a really good first semester as we're getting in it.
Yeah, so other things we were up to, we were really grateful. We were able to attend our Mission Agency's regional conference that was hosted in Colombia this year for the entire Latin American region. So it was the Caribbean islands, Mexico, Central America, and all of South America came together. And it was a really beautiful time of meeting other missionaries who were really passionate about our region, learning and sharing about cultural difficulties that we were encountering and able to speak to each other in the midst of that. And it was just a time a week away. The kids got to swim in a pool for the first time. They got to feel what air conditioning was like for the first time. It was a really beautiful gift to us. It was a 6-hour drive from our house, and in our car that most of the time starts, we were able to...
Well, it always starts eventually.
It does eventually always start. We were able to drive there and back safely with the kids, and it was just a really beautiful community building week. These conferences will happen every 2 years, and so that's something that we look forward to, coming and rebuilding those relationships every 2 years, and learning how can we support each other in missions, how can we partner with each other, making sure that we're not isolated missionaries, but that we're working with community in what we do. Most of our extra time was in community building. So we have the privilege of living on the seminary's campus. All of the faculty members, most all of them, both Colombian and foreign, live on the campus with students. And so our neighbors are the people that we're serving. We are neighbors with our students and their family, as well as the other faculty members. Again, in a world without missionaries, without air conditioning, the doors are always open, which is a really beautiful thing that families are always wandering in and out of houses. It's a beautiful time, 24/7, that we get to build relationships and build community. And the twins have certainly helped with that. Every woman on campus has been visiting our house frequently to get their little baby snuggles in. And it's been a really beautiful opportunity to start to build those relationships. The house is always full, as you can see in the next slide. We have a big playpen where the kids play, and the other neighborhood kids who are normally children of students, of pastors, they have found that our house has a lot of baby toys and a lot of snacks. And so I've gone from a mother of 2 to a mother of 7 or 8 typically, with a full house of children that just have a safe haven in our home. And I'm really grateful that I get to experience that and provide a space for the kids just to be kids, where they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They don't have to worry about their safety for a few hours. They can just come and laugh and giggle and be kids. So it's been a really unexpected and beautiful part of our ministry that we weren't anticipating when we moved 2 years ago. Of course, our life was not without speed bumps over the past 2 years, mainly health-related. Living in a tropical environment, we had a few run-ins with parasites that led us navigating the hospital systems. And then, of course, I mentioned our kids were born prematurely. So Sebastian was in the NICU for, thank God, only 4 days. But they were discharged very early, meaning that we had a lot to care for when they did come home to us. And then just this past month, Adelena was in the hospital with a really high fever that wasn't treated with medications. It wasn't coming down with medications. So we were in the hospital for 4 or 5 days with her. It was right after we traveled to our regional conference, which has more tropical mosquito-borne diseases. And so she was under really close monitoring to make sure that she was recovering, and praise God, she did. And throughout all of this, we just have learned that God's faithfulness goes before us, no matter what life throws at us. And we're really grateful that these first 2 years of our ministry, we've learned there's highs, there's lows, there's moments where we can see and feel God's faithfulness, and then there's other moments where we're required to actually exercise our faith, saying, God, I don't know if I see you in this right now, but I trust that you're good and I trust that you're faithful. And he has always come through for us. And so we're really grateful, looking forward to what the Lord has planned for us, that we don't need to fear, that he has been faithful. We can stand on that faithfulness moving forward. So what's next? We will be sadly leaving St. Simon's in the morning to travel up north to Richmond, Virginia. We're going to be spending some time with my family and different supporting communities in the Virginia area. And then in 3 weeks, we'll be heading back to Colombia, back for semester number 2. Devlin will be teaching 2 more classes. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I'll be teaching a hermeneutics, biblical interpretation class again, and then also a class on the Greek and Roman backgrounds to the New Testament.
Yes. Yeah, so he'll be jumping right back into semester number 2. I'll continue to be home raising Sebastian and Adelena for this time, building community. But looking forward, we have a vision of living in Colombia for 20, 30 years. We plan, Lord willing, to spend our entire careers there. We're both in positions that we really need to truly learn the culture in order to be able to see long-lasting change. So we're just at the very beginning, living faithfully one day at a time, but we're really looking forward to all that God has in store for us. So we have about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 if we're really generous for questions. So we just wanted to give you a brief overview, but not knowing what information you guys have received, what questions you might have about our personal lives, about our ministry lives, about what life just is like in Medellin, Colombia, we're happy to answer to the best of our ability.
And wait, first of all, let me just say, in the back, we have tables with prayer cards. Please feel free to take one. As our photo, you can look at the cute babies, not my bald head. And on the back, some prayer requests. It also has our website where you can sign up for email updates and our email address. If you want to get in contact with us for any reason, we very much welcome that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering in the future when you are going to be doing the physical therapy, is there like a center or where would that occur?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The question was when I start my ministry of physical therapy, once the children are in preschool or have childcare, where will that be? What will that look like? So I have been talking to a few different nonprofit organizations that work with children in stratas 0 and 1, which means they're the children experiencing the most severe poverty. And it's a center, it's like a one-stop shop for all their medical needs. They provide behavioral therapies, physical, occupational speech therapies, psychiatry care, as well as caregiver support. And because they're a nonprofit, they don't have much funding, and so they're very low staffed. So that would be one very easy opportunity for me just to plug right in and provide physical therapy care for them there. There's also a hospital called Clinica Noel that specializes in treating clubfoot in children, which is a pretty common birth deformity that causes children not to be able to walk unless it's repaired surgically or with physical therapy. And they have a huge waiting list because they only have one physical therapist on staff. And so the needs are very long. I've started conversations with all of them, learning what they do, learning what their needs are, so that when my time does open up, I can plug right in. The complication that you guys can be praying for is I do have to transfer my license to practice from America to Colombia, and that is a horrible process. So much paperwork and bureaucracy. So that's something that we're going to be starting when we return to Colombia, so that I will be fully licensed to practice in Colombia, and then when the time comes, I'm able to. So that's one big prayer request that you can help us with.
What kind of home do you have?
You want to talk about?
Sure. The question was, what kind of home do we have? So we live in a house. So it's a building with 2 houses. One side is one professor, one side is us. The seminary is on a hill. It's at the top of the hill. We have this beautiful view of the city, and we're sort of right next to the playground on campus where all the kids play. We're really fortunate to have it. When Courtney was pregnant with the twins, the family that was living there moved out. So yeah, we live in a house on campus. I'm not sure if you're looking for something more specific.
We have a guest room if you want to come visit.
We do.
When we first moved to Colombia, we were in a very small apartment that felt like a greenhouse. It would get to 110 degrees inside because it was all windows on one side. And the twins were born into that house with my mother, the twins, and the 2 of us all shoved on top of each other.
We moved when they were 10 days old.
Yeah, 10 days old we moved to the house, but the Lord just opened it up. Yeah, very worth it. Yeah, so He provided a space for us that's very comfortable that we can invite people into. And we do have a guest room. I'm very serious. We would love to host any of you.
Do you all have mission teams that come and help prepare the seminary or do things there for whatever?
Yeah, so the question was about short-term teams. Do short-term teams come and do stuff? We have not we as in me and Courtney have not yet hosted a short-term team, but that is something that other missionaries who are at the seminary have done, and is very much a possibility for teams to come down. Yeah, some teams have done sort of little construction project type things around campus. Other teams have done like an English language intensive week for students or community members. Once Courtney gets more plugged into her ministry, there almost certainly will be options there. So hosting short-term teams is something that we are really excited about doing once we're a little more established and plugged in. And we would very much, if there was a team from Wesley in the future who wanted to come, that is very much something we'd love to chat about, for sure.
We've also been dreaming and praying about potentially hosting a pastor's retreat for the students and the local pastors in the area, of having a short-term team come down, plan the food, plan the services, plan a time for pastors and their families just to come and have a week of rest, which is something that they really don't experience often. So we're starting to pray about what that would look like for different teams to come. Yeah.
So for those desires to support for ministry financially, what are the most pressing needs that might be met by more support?
Sure. So the question was about people who want to support our ministry financially. We are supported individually as missionaries by a group of people who are regular donors. Wesley's a part of that, as well as a number of individuals from Wesley. So if you're interested in being a regular supporter, whether that means like monthly giving or yearly giving, that's something we would obviously very much welcome. We'd love to chat with you more about it if you would like to. You can sign up for that on our website. There are links to do all of that. If you're interested in just giving a one-time gift, we're also very happy to receive that. Checks can be made out to Basic Global. We also, at the seminary, there are a large number of more sort of one-time needs. Well, there are some continual needs at the seminary. Money for student scholarships is always a need. As I mentioned in my sermon that you may have heard or will hear, tuition at the seminary is a little over $1,000 a semester. For students to get that money together is more often than not extremely difficult for them. There are also funds through the sort of student life office to help students who have particular needs, like students who are struggling to pay for groceries. There's a fund in student life where they can talk with someone and apply to get funds to help with that. The seminary does have some larger one-time needs. The chapel needs a new sound system. There's a couple buildings that need roofs, and those are one-time needs that, we're talking bigger numbers here, anywhere from like $5,000 to $30,000 or $40,000. So there's lots of needs. They all run the gamut, and we're happy to, chat with you more about that if you would like.
What's y'all's annual raise through Basic Global?
Our annual raise?
Yeah.
1%? 2%?
No.
What do we have to?
What do you have to raise every year?
I understand.
We have to raise.
We have a slide on this. Can you kind of flip through the slides? I'll stop you. There you are. Okay, so this is for what we personally have to raise as a family. It's really small, I'm sorry. We can email this to anyone who wants it. So as a family, we raise $8,700 per month, more or less. It has gone up now that we have twins, but we haven't fundraised. So we're just living a little more simply now that we have twins. So the way this breaks down is we see half of this money. The other half, the other 45% goes towards global health insurances, retirement plans. The ministry itself takes 12%, I believe, to help the organization run as a total. And then the other 55% is our salary that we receive. That's what we receive for our rent, for our groceries, childcare, and that's what we live off of. So that is what we personally raise. Our missions agency is very wise, and we had to be at 100% before going to the field because they know people are going to come and go, of course, with their life situations. So praise God, we've been in a really good position where we've been about 90% funded, and we can live on that. Of course, we are looking to close those extra 5-10% gaps. for some more long-term sustainability and security. That way, when we're in Colombia, we're able to be 100% focused on our ministry and not concerned about fundraising. But yeah, through the generosity of the church, Wesley is a regular donor to us through their missions board as well as individual families. And if you're interested in joining that team, we'd love to talk to you. Yeah.
The fact is that your finances all come to Wesley Global. You are not
Correct.
paid by the seminary, nor will you be paid by the clinics because they simply have no money
To do that.
Exactly. Exactly. We're working with organizations that don't have funds to really even sustain themselves, nevertheless to pay professionals. And so the seminary operates.
I mean, yeah, they're not fixing roofs that need to be fixed. Like
Right.
they can't. Their students are struggling to come up with tuition money. It certainly is it's a tight situation for all of those involved.
Right. And so that's a way that we're able to bless these institutions is to come in fully funded so that we're not a financial burden on them. We're just able to bless and to give to them. And then we sustain ourselves financially and through the generosity of others.
I think I saw another hand back there. Yeah.
I was just curious, what kind of car do you drive?
Yeah, so when we first came to Colombia, we didn't have a car. We had to learn the public transit system, which is for Colombia pretty good in the city, but as Courtney said, it's a little wild. There's lots of buses, but there's no place where I can go and look at a map of all the bus routes. And buses don't have stops. You literally stand on the sidewalk and raise your hand when the bus comes by, and it stops for you. And then, unless you already know
It
where
stops for about 5 seconds. Get on.
Oh yeah, you get 1 foot on and it's going. So we had to figure all that out. And back in February, we got a car. It's a 2014, it's a Chevy N300, which is not a car, it's not a make or model we have here. It's not a minivan, but it's a miniature van. That's like,
bread box.
yeah, it's like we're in a little bread box driving down the road with like a flat front. Has 100,000 kilometers on it. It's very cute.
You sit on top of the engine, so it's built-in seat warmers as the engine heats up. It's a 1 liter, so we go about 5 miles an hour in the mountains, but we can get up.
It's really great. We really like it. It's very Colombian. It navigates all the crazy traffic and tight streets of the city really well.
Space for the.
Yeah, it has 3 rows, so space for the kids and a little bit of stuff.
Yeah. Car seats was our main
Yeah.
motivation for buying a car, because the hopping on a moving bus with 2 little ones was proving to be a little too
Yeah,
challenging.
with twins and a stroller. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
You mentioned that almost 100% of the students are Colombian. You don't have a broader regional reach. Is that part of the mission of the seminary to draw more international students?
Yeah, it's not 100%. It's a little over 90. We have a couple of students from neighboring countries, from Ecuador and Peru and Venezuela. I know this past semester we had some exchange students from Switzerland. So that is part of the vision of the seminary, especially in the sort of that part of South America, especially in all the old Gran Colombia countries, if you know South American history. Yeah, I can say that the seminary is probably one of 3 of the most prominent seminaries across Latin America, along with one in Guatemala and one in Costa Rica. And there's a decent amount of coordination between those institutions as well. So, yeah.
Well, how many students do you have every semester? The school.
Yeah, so the seminary has about 200 students in between all the bachelor's and the master's between all the different programs. Is there?
I was just wondering, do you have security concerns for your family living there? How do you do that?
Medellin is a city that is really known for its history, right? The most famous person from Medellin is Pablo Escobar. The city, though, has really transformed a lot since the sort of real reign of the drug lords in the 80s and 90s and the random car bombings and all of that stuff. Medellin has become a pretty big tourist destination, actually, to the point where it's been a little bit of a problem how many tourists there are in a couple of neighborhoods. So it's a city that has transformed a lot. That being said, it is not perfect by any means. But it's the sort of situation where there are parts of the city that we just don't go to. We almost never go out at night. And then when we are in certain parts of the city, there are ways we conduct ourselves to make ourselves not a target. There's an expression in Medellin, which is it's no dar papaya, which literally means don't give papaya a fruit, but it's a saying that means don't make yourself a target. Don't walk around with your iPhone and a gold chain and a Gucci bag. So there are ways that you can handle yourself yeah. I can say we've never felt scared for our life or anything like that. There have been moments where I thought I might get pickpocketed, but that hasn't happened yet. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really grateful. We live on the campus that does have a gate with 24-hour access well, it's normally a student. I don't know if it's really a security guard, but someone's standing at the gate making sure people aren't coming in. And we have guard dogs at night. So we have guard dogs that roam the campus at night that help keep us safe in our neighborhood because we are in somewhat of a rough neighborhood. Yeah, you just learn you don't go out at night. We are praying for Colombia, and you guys can join us. This year has been a year of political unrest in Colombia, and the violence is starting to increase again. And there's lots of reasons for that because ceasefires have expired and so forth. We don't feel it physically where we live, praise God. But we are working with people who have experienced very severe trauma from their lives, especially the violence they experienced in the 70s through 90s, losing family members. And then having this increase in violence again happening this year is starting to reignite that fear of, are we going back to where we were? And so we don't feel the fear for our family specifically. We're in a secure place as of now. But with the changing things happening in Colombia right now, we are working with individuals who are experiencing some really deep fear as well as processing trauma that they already have experienced. So that's something we as a family are really praying for peace in the country. It's more in the South region right now, the violence. And we would love you guys to join with us in praying for that. We have about 2 minutes, so maybe 1 or 2 more.
Where do the other teachers come from? Are they Colombians or?
So the makeup of the faculty on the seminary is about half Colombian and half foreigners. The largest country represented is from the US. There's a couple other American professors, but we have a couple other European professors as well. We have 2 or 3 from the Netherlands, 1 from the UK. So yeah, it's about half Colombian, half foreigners. The administration is almost exclusively Colombian, which is a little bit of a value of ours as missionaries. We want to plug in with we don't want to do something by ourselves. We want to plug in with organizations that are doing good work, and we really value being under Colombian leadership, being under people who know the culture and the needs and all of that stuff way better than we ever will.
Are the other foreign teachers from the same organization?
Some are, some aren't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, we're gonna stop here.
Lucas is pulling the plug.
It's time to get ready for the last service. Can we just give them an applause for all the work that they're doing? Would anybody love to just close us in prayer and pray over them? I can bring them like tea or come to the front. Somebody that's not Rebecca.
Padre nuestro, te damos gracias en este día por nuestros hermanos que están trabajando en Colombia. Te pedimos que le des la ayuda que necesitan, que des el poder del Espíritu Santo en sus vidas, que puedan hacer el trabajo que les ha dado. Y pedimos estas cosas en el nombre de Jesús.
Guys, you can always, if you have more questions, grab our card and send us an email. We'll be around.
Or talk to David and Rebecca.